You do not need a traditional college savings plan to send your kids to school. You want proof? Try and take a 529 and mail that to the college. You can't do it. You got to turn it into cash. Then you send the money to the college. That kills your compounding interest, right? That kills that exponential curve for the rest of your life. Understand how to save in a place so that you can send your kids to school and it will not offset the income you would have had if you never sent your kids to school in the first place.
From Goalpost Studios in downtown East Lansing, Michigan,
Hello and welcome to the Earn More, Keep More show.
where it's our job to give you tips, tricks, and strategies to earn more and keep more. I'm Dave McAndrews, and I believe that we should focus our marketing on messages that are all about our clients so that we can connect with them in a way that they can understand. The man has a double espresso, and he acts like he'd never had anything like that in his life.
I haven't, but I'm ready to go. It's going to be a good episode. I'm the first time here in a long time. I'm really excited to be back. It's good to see you. You look really good.
We're back to the Earn More, Keep More show.
Welcome. It's good. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and we actually have had a bunch of great guests.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, it's nice to have it back to just the two of us.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
And
It is so
and
weird.
this is a special episode.
Okay.
This is kind of like an after school special type
Yeah.
episode where we're going to address some things because your life is about to turn on a dime. For those of you at home, Matt's lovely wife is about to give birth to Matt's first child.
A beautiful little baby girl.
Beautiful little baby. Well, we haven't seen her yet. We have to assume.
She's going to look like an alien for the first month, like
Yes.
all babies do, but I'm assuming she's going to be like her mother and just absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, any day now, the baby's coming.
So with that in mind, I prepared a little bit for the 4 things that you are never going to be ready for in your life.
Yeah.
And this is not a definitive list. There are other things you won't be prepared for. But these are 4 of the most common things in life that you are not going to be ready for, no matter how ready you think you might be.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and buckle in, because that's the way life's going to be.
And hopefully people listening who have already gone through this can look back and go, oh, yep, I didn't know what I was
exactly.
getting into.
Now, along the way, we're also going to throw in some interesting notes on because we're always about earning more and keeping more, and adding the tips, tricks, and strategies in order to do that. And
that's right. The great philosopher Daniel Tosh once said,
of Tosh.0.
Yeah.
The great point.
Money does not buy happiness, but it does buy a jet ski, and there's not a lot of unhappy people on a jet ski.
It's very true.
So,
it's very true.
While all of these points are important, it does come back to money at some point.
Absolutely. I think that might have been our first absolutely
I think it was.
In a while.
Yeah.
So tip your cups up. All right. So
I'm
number
all out
one.
of vodka. I drank it on the way here.
Number 1, you're never going to be ready to get married.
Sorry, sweetheart.
You're never going to be ready to buy a house. No. You're never going to be ready to have kids. And you're never going to be ready to start a business.
That's right.
All 4 of those things are things that most of us in the audience either have done or will do. And I think if you think back to the time that you got into it, there's a pretty good chance that you weren't ready, or you did not feel ready.
And even if you were ready, you're never going to be 100% prepared. So even the people listening going, oh, I already did that, and I knew what I was doing. Nah, don't lie to yourself. There's probably a couple of things you didn't know. Me, for instance. I didn't realize how much village taxes were. I bought a house, and I didn't realize what a village tax was.
Well, did you realize you were moving to a village?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know they still had that. Is
Yeah,
that like Brigadoon?
It's a cute little place, right? But apparently they go by the sale of the house. So my village tax is more than my old apartment was when I was in college. So, yeah, there's little things that you learn when you go through this stuff.
Tidbits and such. So number 1, and you always say your ideal client is...
My ideal client is the favorite person I work with, someone who is like me, a business owner who loves their family and hates paying extra taxes.
So with that as a central theme, I thought the marriage one was kind of important.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that can be one of the biggest commitments in their life, and one of the biggest things that can either help them or hurt them going down the line, whether it's entering into a business relationship or having the support that they need in order to do what they need to do. So the number one tip for someone who's going into a marriage is, if you don't care about them more than you care about you probably shouldn't do it.
At least not yet. I wouldn't do it yet. Mm-hmm. I've been married for, it's been 12, 13 months now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kidding. I think it's been 2 years. My point is, if you're not there yet, that's okay. Mm-hmm. You better start preparing yourself to get there.
Yeah, and people get in trouble a lot of times, and a lot of the people in the entrepreneurial community hit this at some point in their lives, where they start thinking about, what's in this for me? If you're going into a marriage thinking about what is in it for you, don't. Just stop, or give some random person half your stuff, because that's where it's going to end up. Mm-hmm. The second part to this is, marriage, like any of the other things that you do in your life, in business, it's a commitment, not a feeling. But business owners know that if they go to the office and they don't feel like doing it, there's still something that is driving them to get the stuff done that they may not want to do, because they know that they're committed to growing the business. Marriage works the same way. If you're not committed to it, if you just are looking for that feeling, the feeling goes away. Mm-hmm. The commitment needs to stay. And if you have that commitment and you are geared toward the other person, you have a shot at making it work. And if you have that type of relationship, that's going to bleed over into everything else, especially to those entrepreneurs who are looking to build something great. You have to have that support at home. If you go home and it just sucks everything out of you, you're not going to be able to show up to the office and do great things and build great businesses.
My dad taught me this too. He's the one who gave me the white hair, by the way, so thanks, Dad. But he says, if you think a relationship is 50-50, you're wrong. And I don't care if it's a friendship or a spouse. It's not a 50-50 relationship. You need to give 100% to that relationship if you want it to succeed, and expect nothing in return. I see people post things on Facebook and they act as these martyrs. Oh, I give my heart on my sleeve and I do everything for everyone else and I'm never happy. It's your fault. And that's good news for anyone listening. It's your fault that you're not happy, because you're expecting other people to make you happy. When it comes to a spouse, I want to give 110% because I want to see her happy more than I want to see myself happy. When it comes to friends, I'm not expecting any. There's a couple of friends that have blown me off in the last few weeks because they're so busy doing their own thing. I'm not mad at them, right? I want to give them 100% and expect nothing in return. And I will never be dissatisfied if I continue doing that. I can limit the exposure of how many times I get disappointed, but I'm not going to disappoint myself if I just stick true to my own principles and then give 100% in that relationship. It's not a 50-50.
And the same thing applies to business.
100, yeah.
Because if you are in business to serve others, you are much more likely to be successful than if you're going into business to serve yourself.
Or a paycheck to serve yourself.
Yeah.
You see successful people all the time. I talked to my wife about this the other day. How do successful people become successful? It's not that they have talent. It could weigh into some, but it's not because they necessarily were more talented. It's because they fell in love with something, they have passion, and they were obsessed with an idea. This idea of obsession. And the idea isn't income. The idea is helping others. When my purpose for this earth can be personified or described as how I benefit others, my business will thrive. If I'm trying to make money constantly, it reeks of my body language and what I'm focused on, what my conversation is directed upon. People know that. They can read that right away. If my whole intention is to make money, why would anyone want to do business with me? I have to be able to show people that my value is actually helping others succeed. Value will come. Money will come. Money will follow value. You have to learn how to create value instead of chasing money.
Absolutely. Next up on our list is buying a house. And probably about 2 months ago, my wife came to me and she was like, You know what? I didn't mean to, but I accidentally went and looked at this house that's literally a block away from our current house. And she said, and I believe her, that she wanted to go in it and not like it.
Right.
But she didn't do that. She loved it. And she started imagining, our next 10 years in this house versus the 10 years that we've had in our previous house. And so all of a sudden I'm looking at buying a new house and selling the old one, which, because of the fact that you and I have been doing a lot of work in the financial arena, it started looking a little bit more, and probably the reason she was so easily able to talk me into doing this is the fact that I looked at it as an opportunity to get liquid with some of the money that was locked up.
Did I help you?
You did.
Is that on camera? Are we recording this one?
Absolutely. Yeah, this one we are.
I got this one. All right, I helped Dave. Thanks, man. That means a lot.
So we are selling that house, buying the new one. And
what's the rate of return in moving your wife into a new house?
That's priceless. Although, ask me in 2 months after we're 2 months into renovating.
Yeah.
And I may have a very different answer.
Yeah, totally.
But one of the things that we've talked about before offline that I thought would be really interesting, just to explain to the folks out there, is amortization versus compounding.
Yeah, well, let's back up real quick. When
Sure.
it comes to earning more and keeping more, right? Theme of the show, when it comes to buying a house, everybody wants to buy a house. You can build equity and all this. How you pay for the house will massively impact how much wealth you're able to create and enjoy over your lifetime. You just said it yourself. After our communication, you're restructuring this differently so that you've maximized your cash flow and liquidity. So how you pay for the house is massive. If you want to learn more, there's the book that I wrote about this, Don't Be Debt-Free and Broke. I think there's a link in the website or something. You can get it on Amazon. It's super cheap.
EarnMoreKeepMore.show.
Yeah.
If you click into the About page, it does have a link to the book. You can click right there and find it on Amazon.
For anybody who's a business owner who has to maximize cash flow, or a younger person who's maybe struggling paying off student loans and still wants to own a house, read the book. Learn how banks make money. Don't just blindly take their advice. Don't just take someone's advice because it says that. Do some math, do some calculations. Own the reason why you do what you do. A 15-year mortgage is different than paying cash. A 30-year mortgage is different than a 15-year and paying cash. And all of them have long-term effects. They have taxation effects. They have liquidity effects. They have lifestyle effects. And you have to weigh all of that stuff. So look at how to pay for the house when you go into buying.
One of my favorite concepts that I've learned from you is the idea behind solvency.
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little bit? Because I think it's a really important one for our core audience.
I'm glad you asked. I wrote that down and I forgot to mention it. So solvency is huge, and business owners really usually understand this. And here's the idea, and especially if you're trying to buy a new house. Don't take your hard-earned money and put it into the sticks and bricks of the house. Don't get equity in your home until you have that same value of equity elsewhere. Meaning, you have a $100,000 house, okay? Personally, I'd rather have a $100,000 mortgage and a $100,000 cash. Why? Because in a tough spot, I have access to the cash. If the housing market goes down, when the housing market goes down, my cash doesn't get touched. It's uncorrelated. Now, at any time, I can take the cash and satisfy that debt. That's called solvency, the ability to pay off that debt. So anybody who's trying to buy a house, first-time, second-time home buyer, build your solvency account first. Have the value of your house liquid, then decide whether or not you want to pay it off. Because I would bet you, once you get to that point, I remember the first time I had a bunch of money liquid, man, I was not going to go pay off a house. Because if the house value went up, dude, that's my equity. When I sell the house, that's my equity. If the house value goes down, the bank loses money. My cash is still doing just fine. Now, there's places I can keep cash, obviously. That's the next part of the conversation. But understanding that being solvent is much more powerful than being debt-free will change your life.
And that is exactly the point that brought me to deciding to go ahead and buy that new house.
Isn't that cool? I mean, that's the coolest part of the story. The numbers, cool, they speak for themselves. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about numbers. It's either better or worse. Nothing in between. Buying a house, numbers kind of go sideways. The house right down the street, newer, a little bigger. What are some of the features?
Well, it's older.
Older. But we're talking
older,
downtown
but
East Lansing.
Yeah,
it's
1935, big brick mansion. It's not really a mansion, but I'm going to call it a brick mansion. Dang it, because I'm going to enjoy it. But yes, a little bit more square footage. It allows it so that our master bedroom is not the airport runway between the living room and the backyard, which I am definitely looking forward to.
That's cool.
And now I have to have it because,
lifestyle.
Yeah, it will make a difference in how crazy my children drive me.
See, to me, that is more satisfying or fulfilling from being in my position, to watch a client be able to do what they wanted to do by just utilizing the same boring stuff that we teach, that advisors and banks don't teach everybody, right? This isn't like rocket science. It's just, when we first sat down, you're like, well, this makes sense. Why wouldn't I do this? And now you get to be living proof as to how it works. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's wonderful. And then you mentioned amortized versus compounding.
Yes.
Amortized versus compounding. Know the difference. In a loan, your bank mortgage, you have an amortized loan, so you pay interest every month. But the amount of interest you pay each year goes down, and the government allows you to deduct that interest if you itemize your taxes. Compounding interest, your interest earns interest on top of interest on top of interest, and this is what Albert Einstein called the ninth wonder of the world. And the difference is that in eighth wonder, the compounding interest will earn interest for years. That never ends. You will earn more interest compounding than you will ever pay in an amortized loan.
So go back to your $100,000 house and $100,000 in solvent, in just having $100,000 liquid. If you are able to earn interest on this pile with $100,000 of your money versus paying an amortized loan on this side, it's going to be much more beneficial having that cash than paying off that loan, particularly in a low interest environment like we have today.
We have never seen this in our lifetime. You can borrow money so cheap. So when money is cheap to borrow, go long on debt. That doesn't mean save the difference of what you would have been spending on the debt. Excuse me. I have to edit that part because I don't want to get too confusing.
Right.
When interest rates are as low as they are today, that means go long on debt. Okay? The payment that you would have been sending to the lender, save. Don't go out and buy a car or a Prada purse and spend it in lifestyle. Save that money. Save the difference, and you're going to have a heck of a lot more money in the long run. I know some numbers offhand. They're not exactly right, but they're similar. $200,000. Let's say I go to the bank. I see a house I want to buy, and I know what I'm doing, right? I'm going to pay cash for this house because I'm not going to pay interest like everybody else. So I'm going to spend $200,000 to buy this house. Because if I had a loan at 30 years at a 5% interest, it's going to cost me around $186,000 of interest over those 30 years. So then I would be paying $200 plus the $186, $386,000 total for the $200,000 house. So I'm very frugal with my money. I don't want debt. I'm going to pay cash. Well, I go into the bank to pay this mortgage. And to the right is the mortgage guy. And they're sitting there waiting to sign the title, and they are excited. Why? Because they're getting a $200,000 deposit. On the left-hand side of the bank, there's a guy selling CDs, certificates of deposits, and they're paying the same 5% interest. Here's the question. In the mortgage, I'm paying, if I had a mortgage, I would pay an interest. If I had a CD, I would earn interest. They're both at 5%, and they're both for 30 years. Most people think it's a wash. It's the furthest thing from the truth. It's not a wash. This is what's so cool about the book. When I started studying this, when I first got in the industry, all my friends had student loans or wanted to buy a house. So I studied debt. Banks don't even follow their own opinion, their own advice. If I would have bought the mortgage, I'd lose $186,000 of interest. But by not buying the CD, I've lost over $860,000 of potential growth.
Really?
I've lost over $860,000 of potential growth from the CD. So what should I have done? Paid cash and then saved the interest and then lost the investment? Or take a loan, use other people's money, put my 200 grand in an investment that earns me 5%. I pay the bank 186, they paid me 860. How many times do you want to do that?
Every time.
This is why people love real estate. You can use other people's money to get a cash flow. When Donald Trump builds all of his big buildings in New York and Chicago, he uses other people's money to build the building. When the people live in the buildings or rent the office space, who do the rent checks go to?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Why are we trying to beat these people? They understand the game. So when you buy your house, understand how to pay for it. It's crucial.
It's massive. And the last thing I will say about the mortgage piece is, if there is a mortgage company out there that could specifically and directly lend to the entrepreneurial class and actually know how the entrepreneurial class works,
yes,
like they don't get a typical paycheck like every employed person, and actually treat them like, oh, you have a business, you make money, we should want to lend to you.
Oh, man.
I swear, it's like I'm having to explain what a business is in order to get a mortgage. I have had to provide more documentation over the last 3 months than I did for chunks of my adoption period, and both were excruciating.
Yeah, that didn't happen quickly either.
No, both were terrible amounts of paperwork. But if somebody out there wants to do that, please let us know, and we will make sure to let our listeners know about you.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. If you can lend to business owners, if that's your specialty, reach out, make a comment, send us an email. We got to get in touch.
So marriage, buying a house, number 3, and the one that you are just about to enter into.
I don't know yet.
Having kids. Having kids. Number 1. The things that you really need to know. My simple advice to you as a soon-to-be dad. Number 1, you are going to experience a moment where they hand you a child.
Oof.
And you're going to put them in some sort of bassinet or car seat or whatever, and you're going to exit the hospital. And you are going to ask the question, they're going to let us just walk out with this kid?
Do they know I have this thing?
Is there not a ankle monitor or something that we need to have, or some sort? They're just going to hand you a child, and you're going to walk out.
It's not like a plant.
No, it's not. It's not just a matter of watering, once a week or whatever.
Gosh.
You are going to have this moment where it's like, how did this happen? And how come we don't need to know 15 more reams of this?
Yeah.
And it was always interesting because having gone through the adoption process, which is a ridiculous amount of stuff that you need to do and hoops that you jump through and stuff you need to know and ways you have to get your house ready. When it's your own kid, they're just like, here you go, have fun, we'll see you later. So that's kind of the fun thing with that. So there should be a mandatory course. There's not a mandatory course, but there should be things you need to know. Yeah.
One question that's been looming over my head and that none of the classes have talked about. Do they eat 2 or 3 times a day?
Exactly why you need the mandatory course. More. So the other piece, and this is real.
On a serious point, yep.
Postpartum depression is a real thing, and is something that no one talks about. Yep. And particularly as a man, you will have no idea what's happening. All of a sudden, your wife will be going through something that you don't understand, and you need to be asking the questions. And there are serious ramifications if you don't. So on a very serious tip, postpartum depression, be on alert for that. Make sure that your wife's doing okay, because honestly, there's not a whole lot, and this is the next piece, and it's kind of funny. It's like between 1 and 4 months, you are basically tits on a bowl. Like you are useless, because she is your only job is to support the mom, because you'll be able to hold the kid and do all that sort of stuff, but you're not going to be able to give the kid what she needs. Yeah. which is, the
Food.
mother's milk and all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
Yeah.
So during that time, your job is to take care of mom. That's it. Just take care of mom. So after 4 months, they start gaining a little bit of awareness, and suddenly you become an object that they can recognize. Oh, hey, that's dad.
Good.
And
That's
it's
the fun
kind of
part.
cool.
Yeah.
And by 8 months, they start developing personalities and all that kind of stuff. And it's a really, really fun time to have that kind of toddler toddling around or crawling around. But understand that first 4 months, you're supporting mom. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, and I think we did this at good timing because this summer we'll be able to enjoy a newborn and go to the lake and just relax and sit in the shade and go to the sandbar and just kind of hang out and not do much. But then this time next year, she'll be surfing with me on that boat, man. I can't wait. She's going to be right next to me, shredding up the wave.
So much fun.
And then real quick,
Yeah.
related to money, because I'm concerned about this now. I understand a little bit about how wealth works, how math works, how investment types work. I'm not an investment advisor. I don't want to be. I don't believe you need to have money in investments to succeed. You need assets, understand assets, and cash flow. A lot of people my age are talking about how to save for college. Now, we've talked about this with your kids too. If you want to learn how to save for your child's college and not offset the amount of income you're going to produce in retirement, we can help with that. I am so confident and excited to start this college savings plan that's not a traditional college savings plan for my daughter.
You don't know what you don't know.
You do not need a traditional college savings plan to send your kids to school. You want proof? Try and take a 529 and mail that to the college. You can't do it. You got to turn it into cash. Then you send the money to the college. Well, again, we talked with Brian Bloom about compounding interest. That kills your compounding interest, right? That kills that exponential curve for the rest of your life. Understand how to save in a place so that you can send your kids to school and it will not offset the income you would have had if you never sent your kids to school in the first place. That's massive.
And the fact that you get to know that prior to your child being born is a major advantage to you.
Yeah.
I did not learn many of these things until my kid was 13. And then it's like, oh.
That's the early part of that compounding curve.
Yeah, I have 5 years to really figure this out to put her through school. And certainly that's a giant benefit. So that's 1, 2, 3: marriage, buying a house, having kids. The number 4, and the one where a lot of our listeners have either experienced themselves or are beginning to think about, is starting that business.
Fun part.
And if you do it right, if you have the marriage piece down, if you understand you have that support at home, you've not made yourself house poor, you've put your money into good places to take care of things so that you can maintain the expenses that you have on a monthly basis. Your kids are at a stage in life where you don't have to send them to school maybe next week in terms of college and start paying for that next week. And if you didn't have a plan, you might be ready to start that business. You might be ready to take what you know and what you've learned and what you're passionate about and execute a plan.
Yeah. And I think even if you work for the man, after college for a few years, you're going to get bombarded with put money into a qualified retirement account. You need to start saving for buying a house. You know what you need to do? And young entrepreneurs always ask me, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Easy answer. Invest in yourself. Keep your money liquid and have a lot of it. Then you have a permission slip to go take risk and start your own business. Young people, or even if you're older and you have the ability to save in a place that can help you start that business. So you have the cushion.
But I get to defer my taxes on X number of dollars every year into my 412K.
Anyone who listens to what Dave just said, you need to go back to the previous episode
Yes.
with our guest Brian Bloom, who does a great job of talking about deferral as a CPA. Because it does make sense, and it might make sense in the year that you file, but it's not going to help any business owners create or enjoy a business It's earmarked for one event called retirement, and we don't know if we're going to get there.
Here's the takeaway.
The simple checklist for me is, do people need what you do?
Yes, massive.
Will people pay for what you do? And do you love it? Because if people need it and people will pay for it, and you like it enough that it lights your passion and your fire to get up in the morning and actually execute a plan, then you have a shot at being able to be a successful business owner. If you don't have that passion, if it's something that, again, you're looking at chasing a paycheck, it's not going to work.
Right.
Because if your only goal is to just replace your income or whatever, you're going to want to kill yourself.
You're setting yourself up for disappointment.
The amount of things that come with being a business owner are insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand accounting, you have to understand HR. You basically, if you are part of a company, what you don't realize is there are multiple departments within that company that all of a sudden, when you become the business owner, you are going to be the head of every one of those departments. And that is only worth doing if you love what you do. And if you can find the cross-section between what you love to do and what people are willing to pay for, it's Christmas.
Oh, it is Christmas. You will never lose. Remember this. You will never lose by investing in yourself. You won't. You could be disappointed in investing with someone else. You could be disappointed in the way that an investment went up or down, whether it be, your own stuff, your whatever. But if you invest in yourself and your own ability, you'll never be disappointed. You might not make it work, but you're not going to be disappointed because you sure as hell tried.
And hopefully we can help along the way by giving some of those tips, tricks, and strategies to help you pull off and make a run at a successful business. But you're not going to be ready to start.
No.
You're not going to be ready. But when you can get the passion and the people that are willing to pay for it to come together, that's really where the magic happens. And having done it and having been an entrepreneur now, I can't imagine working for somebody
Going
else.
back? No, there's no way. There's no way. The freedom and the, even if your income is less, there's a rate of return in time and freedom, being able to spend time with your family, being in control of your own calendar. There's no comparison.
And that puts all four of these things, the marriage, the house, the kids, the business, kind of in this unified basket of, in order to be really successful in my book, you really have to have a confluence of all these things come together in a really positive way. And if you can pull that off, you can be a very successful person. If your marriage has to suffer because of your business, or your business has to suffer because you don't have that support in the marriage, or if that house makes it so you can't start a business, that's a really bad spot to be in. So
my first house was a condo.
And
worked out wonderful.
It worked out wonderfully.
Yeah, I
and
made
now
a 20% rate of return on that thing.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And the government helped me do it.
And the government subsidized you all along the way. So thank you. Thanks for joining us once again at the Earn More, Keep More show. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Drop the mic.
Well, thank you for listening to the Earn More, Keep More show. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button below so that you can make sure you're up to date on all the new episodes. And if you want to be a guest, we would love to hear from you. On our website, we have an easy downloadable form where you can put in your information and share with us your experience of how you've turned a problem into a process.
We are all about our listeners, and we want to make sure that our listeners are finding a place. And we are most excited for you guys to share with us how you are earning more and keeping more. We look forward to hearing from you.
This has been a Goalpost production.
That's it for us. We are your hosts, Dave McAndrews and Matt Love. Our executive producer and creative guru is Jennifer McKinstry. Our social media director is Mark Farnes. And a very special thank you to Lansing's own Jose Moore for providing the music.
Thanks for listening.